Um, this is Christine again, and we are here today with Yolanda Waymer-Hall and Jacquelyn Smith-White, and they are from Henrico County Mental Health and Developmental Services, and they have a presentation for us today called Mindful or Mindful, Reclaiming Our Time. Yolanda Waymer-Hall is an ACE master trainer, and she brings 16 years experience as a school counselor to her work in prevention. Her passion and purpose are to empower youth to manage their overall health and well-being. Yolanda incorporates daily mindful education practices into her youth programs to support social and emotional learning, and teaches the young how to integrate these skills into everyday living. Jacquelyn Smith-White is a national trainer in mental health first aid, safe dates, Bodvin life skills curriculum, as well as a lay responder trainer for the American Red Cross. She's also a certified qualified mental health professional for children and adults. Jacquelyn has 19 years of experience in prevention. She incorporates mindful education practices into her youth and parent programs, encouraging moms to be more conscientious and present parents. We're also joined in the chat by Michael Courtney from 21st CCLC programs if you have any questions related to that. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Yolanda and Jacquelyn. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Christine, for that great introduction. On behalf of Jacquelyn, myself, and our entire team at Henrico Prevention Services, thank you for providing this platform for us to share this effective and impactful intervention that can literally change the lives of the young people we all work with. So one fun fact about me is that I used to be a military spouse. My husband is a veteran. And I was introduced to mindfulness while working as a middle school counselor on Fort Hood Military Base in Killeen, Texas. Killeen ISD was just starting on their journey of becoming trauma informed. And we had training after training after training. And all I knew was that I had a lot of really stressed out students who were anxious. And I just wanted to arm them with something that could be readily available. It was free of charge and didn't need any parental consent. Hence, my mindfulness journey began. And so at first, it just kind of caught on just a little bit. But within a year's time, you know, being in the military, we were moving again. And I find myself back in Virginia because I had lived here previously, trying to teach mindfulness, again, with just a little bit success, to the most stressed out group of sixth graders that I had ever seen. I think I can admit now that for the first time in my counseling career, I was just as stressed as those sixth graders. I quickly realized that I was missing one thing. I was trying to teach something that I wasn't practicing myself. And kids know when you're bluffing. So of course, my newfound technique was not working on them because they knew that I was not doing really well with this technique myself. So I wasn't able to convey its effectiveness because I wasn't using it. So I reached in my toolkit and I started practicing mindfulness for myself. I noticed a huge difference in the impact that this strategy was beginning to have on my students. I was now able to model what I was teaching, and we all had an emotional victory. So fast forward to me coming to the prevention team in 2018, as we sat in staff meeting week after week discussing the social, emotional, and academic struggles of our students in our after school time program, I knew that this was something that I needed to share. So a new mindfulness journey began, and that's the process that we're here to share with you today. So before we share our goals, we would like to find out a little bit about our audience. And we want to know, we have two questions. The first question is, what is your experience practicing mindfulness? And so if you could take a moment and answer that question for us.
Okay, I see we just ticked over to 30. I give it just a few more seconds and then I'm going to end the poll.
Okay, perfect. So did we end it, Christine?
Yes, we
Oh,
did. You should be
okay.
able to see those poll results.
Okay, excellent. And it's showing me that all the attendees are able to see the poll results. And so as you can see, we have 41%, which is close to half of you who have no experience with mindfulness. So I'm really excited about being able to share all of its benefits, not only benefits for your kids in your program, but benefits for you personally, just to be able to enjoy life just a little bit more and to show up better for the kids in your program. And I see we have a few who already have mindfulness as their superpower. And so that's great. We hope we don't bore you, but if there's anything that you can share in the chat, with your colleagues, that would be great as well. Okay, perfect. So we're gonna move on to the next question. So with about 59% of you having some experience, are you currently using mindfulness in your out of school time program?
Okay, I'm going to give it just a few more seconds and then I'm going to end the poll.
Okay, excellent. So we have 65% who currently are not using mindfulness within their program. And so we hope that something that we say today will help encourage you to bring this concept into your program. Even at the smallest scale, there has been research out there that shows that even just taking deep breaths or just pausing for a moment can be helpful in helping your students regulate their emotions. And so I'm happy that you all are here today, and we're gonna move on and get started with our goals for the session.
Our goals for this session: to educate out-of-school time professionals about mindfulness and the science of the brain, to demonstrate the connection between social emotional learning competencies and mindfulness, to provide out-of-school time professionals with beginning level skills and resources to implement mindfulness in their out-of-school time environments. And the last is to model the implementation of mindfulness activities with out-of-school time participants.
Okay, so mindful or mindful, what is the difference? I want you to imagine two students that you may have in your out of school time programs. We'll call them Michael and Michaela. So Michael and Michaela are siblings because very often we have multiple children from one family. And so they're siblings, they have the same parents, the same household. Aside from a few years differences their ages bring, they have similar life experience, but they clearly experience life differently. So Michael shows up to your program often, and he has a mind full. He appears overwhelmed. He is busy. His mind just appears to be busy and messy. There's a lot going on in his head. He may be functioning on autopilot, and so he's going from activity to activity. And if you stopped and asked him the details of what he's been doing, he might not be able to share it with you because he is just really overwhelmed with the thoughts that he has going on in his mind. He has not been taught how to calm himself and how to be focused on what's going on in the present. So he may be focused on what has happened earlier at school that day, or maybe something that happened at home last night. He may be focusing on, what's going to happen when he gets home tonight. He is maybe judging of himself, judging of others. And his choices are reactive. He doesn't stop and think, he just reacts to problems versus mindfully responding to them. And so then you have Michaela, who is his sister. They're a few years apart, but she shows up to your program every day, and she is aware of what's going on. She may have had a rough day at school as well, but she is now at her program. She's excited to see her friends. She shows up and she's pleasant. She greets everyone when she walks in the door. She's calm. She is experiencing the current task. She's chatting it up with her friends. She's enjoying her snack that you all may have provided, but she is in the moment. Clearly, you can see that she's enjoying herself. She is self-compassionate. So if she makes a mistake or she has, any issues, she is forgiving and kind to herself. And her choices appear to be proactive. When she's deciding what to do, she takes a moment to think about it. And you can tell that in the behavior that you see from her. So whatever their experiences are, they both are in your program. Michael may still be carrying his entire day from school with him, but Michaela somehow has been able to leave her experience of school at school, and she's ready to move on. She's in the moment. So how do you get them on level ground so they both get the most academic, emotional, and social support that your program has to offer? We think this can be done by teaching and consistently practicing mindfulness. So we have shared some of the differences between having a mindful and being mindful. And if you look at this image on the right, you will see clearly that there are two people walking together, like Michael and Michaela, who may be walking from the bus stop to your program, or leaving school to get on the bus, or walking from the bus stop to your program. And like I said, Michaela has moved on. She is in the present. And so she's able to experience everything that she sees along the way. So you see, she may be looking at the sunset. She may notice, at the sun, She may notice the trees that are ahead of her. She may see her friends and, be excited about getting out of school and headed to the program. And mind you, Michael, may be walking right alongside her, and he has all these things going on in his mind. And so he can't appreciate the experience that is happening right now, the fact that he is out of school and he's leaving, whatever situation he may experience, and that he is, seeing the sun, feeling the heat on his face, that he sees trees and flowers. His mind is too full to recognize that. So I'm going to give a couple of scenarios, and I would like for you to type in the chat. And the crazy thing is I can't see the chat. Can anyone access the chat? Jacquelyn, are you able to see the chat?
I just see the slide. I don't see the chat.
Hi, this is Blair. I can monitor the chat for you.
Okay, thank you. So I'm gonna give you just a few scenarios, and I want you to type in the chat whether you are mindful, that you have a mindful or you're mindful. So the first scenario is, I tend to notice the first signs of feelings of physical tension or discomfort. Is that having a mindful or being mindful?
Overwhelmingly mindful.
Definitely, definitely. Okay. So another one, I begin every day having my participants coordinate their breathing with mindful moments to help the participants transition and ensure that while their bodies are at your program, their minds are there too.
And again, mindful. No mindful, all mindful responses.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, and so another scenario is I forget a person's name almost as soon as I've been told it for the first time. So you've been introduced to someone, you're a sentence into your conversation, and you need to recall this person's name, and you cannot.
Mindful.
Definitely. Definitely having a mindful. Okay, another one. I get so focused on the goal I want to achieve that I lose touch with what I'm doing right now to get there.
Again, mindful.
Definitely, definitely. And so, you know, we lose sight of the process when we're so focused on the end goal that, you know, we just lose that experience. I know there have been, it says I'm muted.
You're not muted.
Okay. There's been times that I have been driving, of course, before I started practicing my mindfulness journey, and I would get in my car, I would get to the next location, and I couldn't tell you a whole lot about what I saw from the time I left home to the time I reached my location, because my mind was constantly running, thinking about what I had to do, where I was going, you know, on, again, focusing on the end game. So we definitely want to be aware. The first step is being aware that you have a mindful and that you want to be mindful.
I will say just real quickly that we did have a couple of folks to your last rather than mindful. That was the first time that we had both responses.
Okay, and that was for the end goal, the one talking about I get so focused on the goal.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's easy to confuse in this situation, having a mindful or being mindful, because it says that I'm focused and that I'm focused on the goal. But, you know, just like you may have heard somebody say that when you look at, and I'm reaching here, but when you look at someone's tombstone and you look at the year they were born and the year they died, and what's the most important thing there is the space in between, because that's the journey, and that's where we learn, you know, excuse me, different things, and that's where, you know, we get to experience the things that we love, the things that we don't like, but it's the journey along the way. And so I can understand how people may have chosen mindful in that area, because we talked about being focused on the goal, but you don't want to be so focused on the goal that you lose touch with what's going on right now, because you could miss a really significant part of the learning experience, if that makes sense. All right, moving right along.
All right, so here we have the definition of mindfulness. Being mindful is the ability to be able to be aware of your feelings and emotions without judging them or reacting to them. It allows one to be present in the moment and develop self-compassion. We're going to now watch this video, which talked about mindfulness as a superpower.
You may have heard this word mindfulness. It's become something of a buzz phrase of late. I'm going to give you one simple, serviceable definition, which is this. Mindfulness is the ability to know what's happening in your head at any given moment without getting carried away by it. Imagine how useful this could be. Just as an example, driving down the road and somebody cuts you off in traffic. How do you normally react? I think mostly react by having a thought, which is, I'm pissed. And then what happens next? You immediately, habitually, reflexively inhabit that thought. You actually become pissed. There's no buffer between the stimulus and your reaction. With just a little bit of mindfulness, in that same situation, you might notice my chest is buzzing, my ears are turning red, I'm having a starburst of self-righteous thoughts, I'm getting angry. But you don't necessarily have to act on it and chase that person down the road, screaming at them with your kids in the back of the car thinking you've gone nuts. Now, you might be thinking, don't I need to get angry sometimes? Aren't I justified? I would say yes, but probably not as much as you think. The proposition here is not that you should be rendered by mindfulness into some lifeless, non-judgmental blob. The proposition is that you should learn how to respond wisely to things that happen to you rather than just reacting blindly. And that, my friends, is a superpower. How do you get it? The way to get it is through meditation. I believe that meditation and mindfulness are the next big public health revolution. In the 1940s, if you told somebody you were going running, they would have said, who's chasing you? But then what happened next? The scientists swooped in, they showed that physical exercise is really good for you, and now all of us do it, and if we don't, we feel guilty about it. And that's where I think we're headed with mindfulness and meditation. It's going to join the pantheon of no-brainers like brushing your teeth, eating well, and taking the meds your doctor prescribed for you. Let me just close by saying, mindfulness is not going to solve all of your problems. It's not going to render your life a nonstop parade of unicorns and rainbows. Nonetheless, this is a superpower, and one that is accessible by you immediately.
So mindfulness is a superpower that allows individuals to be conscious of their bodily responses to include breathing and heart rate. It increases one's self-awareness, it reduces feelings of stress, and allows the individual to identify their feelings and emotions without becoming them. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the brain and how the brain works and how mindfulness can impact the brain. Any input that is seen as threatening is blocked by the amygdala, prompting an immediate unconscious reaction, such as the fight, flight, or freeze. The amygdala does not see the difference between perceived threats and actual dangers. It often triggers false alarms and potentially problematic reactional behavior. We sometimes freeze in stressful situations. These can be something as simple as taking a test or public speaking. Though neither of these activities are life-threatening, we disconnect from rational thinking and we can become impulsive and reactive. Even when we have conflict resolution skills stored in our memory, we might not be able to access them due to the stress response, as the amygdala hinders access to memory recall and storage. When we have the time to consciously process sensory input, we allow the prefrontal cortex to analyze the information. With mindfulness, youth are able to choose the best response instead of an immediate impulsive reaction. We're going to now look at social emotional learning competencies. Mindfulness is a complement to these competencies. There are 5 competencies for social emotional learning, and for the sake of our presentation, we will focus on 2, self-awareness and self-management. Let's look back at Michael and Michaela, the siblings, both that are participants in our out-of-school time program. For self-awareness, with the integration of mindfulness, Michaela's self-awareness deepens. This allows the opportunity for Michaela to focus on her feelings and emotions, as well as develop self-compassion. For self-management, mindfulness increases Michael's emotional regulation skills, which enhances his ability to resolve conflict more creatively, as well as his ability to express how he feels in an emotionally balanced way. So how does mindfulness relate to social emotional learning competencies in an out-of-school time program? Mindfulness allows the students to regulate his or her emotions, whether through deep breathing or some other technique. When students learn mindfulness and social emotional learning skills, they are able to calm their emotions during a difficult situation and possess the skills to resolve conflict and move forward in forming positive relationships with their peers and out-of-school time staff. One way to understand the relationship between mindfulness and social emotional learning is with this expression. Mindfulness is the canvas, and social emotional learning skills are the paint. Social emotional learning is a natural complement to mindfulness and vice versa. Whereas mindfulness works from the inside out, social emotional learning addresses the student's needs from the outside in.
So why do you want to, or why would you want to incorporate mindfulness during your out of school time program? So we thought of at least 4 different reasons why it would be transforming. And so first, mindfulness is being used in schools across the United States. Also, with the homeschool and community connection all being consistent in providing this strategy. Like Jacquelyn said, it fosters the social emotional learning competencies, specifically self-awareness skills and self-management skills. And then as a result of training your program professionals and having them see the benefits and see the differences in the program, they will become empowered as well. So schools across the country are beginning to see how social emotional learning increases their students' ability to deal with daily tasks and challenges more effectively. Mindfulness has played a huge part in that process as it teaches students how to monitor their inner selves so they can apply their social and emotional competencies externally. In recent years, research on the impact of mindfulness in schools has been on the rise. So there's a lot of research out there about adults and mindfulness, but more recently, since schools have caught on, and then we have been trying to become more trauma informed, there's been more research with mindfulness in kids in school. And so they have found that mindfulness practice decreases stress and anxiety, increases attention, improves interpersonal relationships, and strengthens compassion, therefore having a positive impact on student success. So I'll make reference to just 2 studies, and there were several that I found out there, but in 2011-2012 school year, Mindful Schools researchers partnered with the University of California to conduct one of the largest randomized control studies to date on mindfulness in children. The study involved 937 children and 47 teachers in 3 Oakland public elementary schools. The Mindful Schools curriculum was taught to the educators, and then the educators implemented the programs in their classrooms, and it produced statistically significant improvements in paying attention and participation in class activities when compared to a control group. A second study was posted in January 2019, and it was Boston Charter Research Collaborative, a partnership between the Center for Education Policy Research at Harvard University, MIT, and Transforming Education. They designed a study focusing on 6th graders in a Boston area school. The control group took a computer coding class, while the mindfulness group had 4 sessions a week for 8 weeks. At the end of the 8 weeks, the mindfulness group reported being less stressed and better able to practice self-control. The findings suggest that the mindfulness instruction helped boost students' attention skills and as well as develop coping mechanisms for stress. So was found to be very beneficial. So for the homeschool and community connection, many of our kids, as you know, and we don't always have the whole story, a little bit different than the schools where they have a cumulative file with a little more information in it. We know that our kids experience, some of them experience toxic levels of stress in their everyday lives. And high stress levels have been shown to reduce attention, to impair self-regulation, to decrease learning readiness, and to lead to increased risk factors. So by extending social and emotional learning and mindfulness in the out of school time realm, We reinforce what schools are beginning to teach with mindfulness. We allow our participants the opportunity to apply those skills that they are learning in a comfortable and safe environment, which is at your program. We can also send a consistent message to parents on how incorporating mindfulness at home will bring balance in all settings. Making the homeschool connection through mindfulness creates a buffer or a layer of protection from their toxic stress and trauma, and it increases protective factors and improves children's overall performance in life. Also, incorporating a mindfulness practice during out of school time will foster all 5 social emotional competencies. We're focusing on self-awareness skills and self-management skills in particular, because mindfulness helps us monitor and manage our inner selves. And so self-awareness and self-management, focuses on our inner selves. And so that's how mindfulness can be really helpful in this area. So these skills improve their perspective of themselves and of others, and therefore positively impacts how they show up during your program and in life. And finally, mindful research. So mindful schools research also showed us that when educators learn mindfulness, not only do their schools and programs benefit, but they reap personal benefits as well. So educators have reported reduced stress and burnout, more emotionally supported classrooms, and they have better organization, and they're better able to help their kids stay organized. Your program staff will become empowered as they strengthen their capacity to minimize stress in your program. You increase students' readiness to learn, and they fully experience the present moment, which improves the overall culture of the program. And then, you're better able to meet your goals. So who is the who when we're talking about mindfulness? Everyone is the who. All the stakeholders who are involved are the who. Incorporating mindfulness must be a collaborative effort. There must be a buy-in from the top down. So you must have support of your leadership. And I can say firsthand that having support of our leadership has been great, because our manager makes sure that she, when she sees opportunities for us to increase our skills in this area, or to gain additional resources, to attend conferences or to take classes, she is very supportive in making sure that we have that information and have whatever we need in order to do that. So by having buy-in from everyone, it really helps make it easier and decreases the stress of you trying to do this program on your own. And then it holds everyone accountable. So, when everyone is a stakeholder, then we all hold each other accountable and hold ourselves accountable. Remember, I said earlier that kids know when you're bluffing. So in order to have a successful implementation, all the staff need to have some experience with mindfulness and see the value of it before we try to implement it with our participants and our parents. So we're going to share a little bit about how we have set these programs up in our programs. It says mindfulness practice in out of school time. So we have 4 programs that fall under Henrico Prevention Services, and we call them All Connect. And these programs are after school programs, and they are located in the communities where our participants live. And so we want to make sure that it's a safe environment, that they feel like, it's a place that they can come after school and they can have some great experiences, learn some skills, but we want them to feel safe so that we can teach them these skills that will help them in life. And so the way, like I shared with you, I brought this program to our team and introduced it to the leadership and, our entire team. And we began to discuss how this could be beneficial to our participants. We all were not using mindfulness at the time, but through professional development and having professionals come in and walk us through some exercises and for us to actually experience mindfulness during our staff meetings and different meetings, then we were able to get everyone on board. So once we got everyone on board at that level, Then we took mindfulness to our programs and we taught it to, or we shared it with our part-time staff. And so during our program staff meetings, we would talk about it, again, modeling what we did with our leadership. We would talk about mindfulness. We would share experiences. We would talk about what are the possible benefits, pros, cons, anything anyone could think about. We wanted to open up that conversation with our staff because, again, they need to be completely bought in and they need to be willing to at least have some experiences so that they're able to transfer this information to the kids. And so sometimes, if we came in and we had a rough morning or, something went on, we might do a mindfulness activity before the program starts, before the kids even show up. So I also wanted to make sure that this program was sustainable and that it could be run even in my absence. So when I started, of course, I was the one facilitating the mindfulness practice with the kids. But I created a manual for each staff member, and I put it in a binder so that they would be able to have some activities that they would be able to do with the kids, even when I wasn't there. So once we had all that straight, we were in a position to be able to introduce mindfulness to our participants. And so your first week, when you are introducing it to your participants, you want them to understand what is happening in their brain when they're practicing mindfulness. And so there is a doctor, and I found her actually on YouTube, Dr. Diane Gehart, and her information is in our references. But she is an author, a psychologist, and a professor. And she implemented the Mind Up curriculum in schools. And so she has a really awesome way of explaining the brain and how mindfulness works, what mindfulness does for your brain by using a model of her fist. And she talks about the fact that your wrist represents your brain stem, and that part of your brain controls the involuntary activity within your body. And then, it's supposed to be like this. And then that this part represents your amygdala, where your thumb is. And we also call it, for the sake of the kids, your lizard brain. And we say that lizards, all they're concerned about, they don't necessarily, all they're concerned about is safety. And so they are constantly scanning their environment to find out, is this safe? Do I need to be ready to fight, flee, or to freeze? Okay, and then we explain to the students that they also have a smart part in their brain. And this is a part that lizards don't have because they're all concerned about safety. But we as humans, we have this smart part, which is our prefrontal cortex, that when we practice mindfulness and, practicing it makes you stronger at it. And so as we practice, we strengthen the connection between our prefrontal cortex or our smart part, and we're able to control our lizard brain or our amygdala. And so, there's videos out there that you can show. There is, this doctor, she has actually had a stuffed lizard so that the kids have something that they can look at and relate to and make it kind of fun. And so she refers to that lizard as she's sharing that strategy. So you just want to make sure that they kind of get an understanding that as they use their breath, as they take their time, as they are present, as they are taking responsibility of calming themselves, that they are activating their smart part. And when you think about kids who have ADHD and, kids that may have to take medicine to activate their smart part, excuse me, you really, the kids can really benefit by being able to see how this strategy of using mindfulness can allow them to have more control and be able to control their own reactions to things, where they actually respond as opposed to reacting. And then we want to talk to them about breathing, because a lot of times kids don't know how to breathe. They breathe, the air goes into their throat and it comes back out of their mouth, and their bodies never move. But we want to teach them about belly breathing. And so when you take air in through your nose, it travels into your lungs. If you take a shallow breath, only the chest cavity expands, but breathing deeply involves more of your body. So your diaphragm contracts and both the belly and the chest cavity expand. Belly breathing and the fight or flight response to stress and anxiety cannot occur at the same time. So when our bodies switch into fight or flight mode, we engage in shallow breathing, and we're ready for battle. But on the other hand, belly breathing reduces our heart rate and triggers a relaxation response. And this allows us to slow down. And so, we share with kids, and what I have done, and these again are things that we're doing within the first week of introducing mindfulness. I have told my kids, place one hand on your chest, and you all can do this as well. We can put our right hand near our heart and our left hand on our belly, and we can take a breath in. Okay, so everyone take a breath. Right. And so if you just took a regular breath, you may or may not have felt your chest and your belly breathing. I might ask the kids, how many of you felt your belly rise? Some of them may say yes, some of them may say no. But then I would invite them again to put their hand back on their heart and their left hand on their belly and take a deep, deep breath and notice your chest and your belly rising. And so let's take a deep breath again and pay attention to our body as it responds. And so now they get to notice that in order to have a really effective breath, that their chests and their bellies will rise because the air is going in past our diaphragm and down all the way to our bellies. So, those are some things that we share with the kids in the first week. And so then we implemented the mindful moment. And so we told them that every day we gave them 10 minutes after they came in the door to have their snack and their free time to kind of talk and catch up. And then 10 minutes before we started homework, we implemented a mindful moment. And so I shared with the kids that we have to get into our mindful bodies. And I modeled that your mindful body means that you are sitting with your feet flat on the floor, that your back is straight, either up against your chair or you're sitting up straight, and your hands are in front of you or on your lap. And so they knew that, so we practiced that, and they knew that was your mindful body. So the next day when I said, time for mindful moment, get in your mindful bodies, they knew exactly what to do. Okay. So you just have to really teach them how it's going to look. We used a chime to signal the beginning of mindful moment. And so with that chime, kids knew to get into place. And, you're going to have some kids that, will resist at first. And so, we just ask everyone to be respectful. And we say that even if you're not fully participating, that you are quiet so that people who want to benefit from this are able to do that. And usually I don't have a problem doing that. I had a few in the beginning who didn't do the activity because they wanted to keep their eyes open and see what was going on, because they're very cautious. Their amygdala is active. But as time went on, I would ask them to help me to do the lesson or to get into the mindful moment. And so you can give them things to do, like maybe they can ring the chime, or they can start the music, or they can, just participate somehow in the process until they are bought in. So I see that it's 12 o'clock. I actually had an example of a body scan, but I want to make sure that we're able to get through. This is a lot of information for 1 hour. And we have, like I said, all of these, a lot of references that you all can go to in order to see these things. But a mindful body scan just allows you to sit still, be in the present moment, and have kids focus their attention from their big toe on up their legs through their entire body up until the top of their head. And you walk them through it phase by phase. And so they really begin to focus. And if you open your eyes, you can see them, kind of tapping their foot, wiggling their toes in their shoes, and things like that. So it really is another good introductory activity that you could do with kids just getting them used to being mindful before you go into something a little more intense. So I will give it over to Ms. Jacquelyn to share what she does in her program.
All right, over at Henrico Arms Connect, we do some of the same things as Richfield's program. We also introduce mindfulness to our part-time staff, and we implement mindfulness right before homework time as well. I want to spend a little time talking about our mindfulness groups with our parents. We have a really great relationship with our elementary school, Henry D. Ward Elementary, and the school psychologist there, Ms. Kendra Vendetti, who has really been an awesome person to collaborate with. She is also a guru of mindfulness. And so Yolanda brought it to our prevention team, and Ms. Vendetti was already implementing mindfulness with the youth that participate in our program. And so with a conversation to her about our parents, she offered to implement a parent workshop, but it was actually became like a 10-week workshop with our parents. And so it was a great integration because the youth were getting mindfulness at school from Ms. Vendetti. We were implementing it during the out of school time program, and now we were going to introduce it to the parents. And so it would be a really nice integration between the school, the community, and now the parents. So they would also have it at home. And so the parents met on Friday evening with Ms. Vendetti and the prevention staff. And I would say that the staff received just as much from the workshops as the parents. I would like to share, we won't be able to do mindful eating because we're virtual. However, I want to share about a mindful eating experience that happened with Ms. Vendetti and the parents. And talking about a mindful or being mindful. And so Ms. Vendetti began her session and she passed out the Hershey's Kisses, which were given to each of the parents. And as she's talking, a couple of parents had already popped the Hershey Kisses in their mouth, they're chewing, and she's not even quite ready to share what the even activity is about because they have a mind full. They just know that they have this chocolate, they gonna, ingest it. And so a lot of them quickly put it in their mouths, begin to eat. Because they were not present in the moment to be able to listen to what she was actually even trying to share with them. And so as she continued to talk, she gave out more Hershey Kisses and asked the parents, to listen as she explained the mindful eating activity. And so with that example, she was able to just get the parents to just be in the present moment with this piece of chocolate that they have probably eaten 100 times in their lifetime, but being able to have a new and different, unique experience with this piece of chocolate that they've never had before. And so she started off by just asking them to unwrap the chocolate and to listen to the foil as it opened up. That was something that I don't think any of us in the room had ever done before. And so from the time we opened it to the time we just looked at it, even the little piece of paper that says kisses in it, those are things that we don't necessarily pay attention to because we have a mind full versus being mindful. And so I won't prolong, but the goal of this activity was for them to be able to savor the moment, to savor what the chocolate actually tastes like as it dissolved on their tongues, and to be able to have that experience with that piece of chocolate that they've never had before. And so we are very grateful to have this relationship with Ms. Vendetti because she has been able to help our parents understand the importance of mindfulness, as well as to be able to understand some of the information that their students or their children have shared with them, but also being able to transform their households to mindful households as well.
Yes, and I will also add that even though our counselors or psychologists had not really talked with us about, I was not able to find anyone within my elementary school where the students where I work attend. I did have members of the staff come out to our program for different activities. And I think it was helpful because sometimes you're going to find that it's not happening at the school. And sometimes it's helpful to bring in people from the school so that the kids make that connection. And then you share with them, we're doing mindfulness at our program. We talk about the benefits, the changes that we're seeing in our kids. And we ask them to come during a time when we are implementing our mindfulness practice. And so they get to join in. And then when they do activities, because we have like family advocates and counselors and different support staff who work with our kids at school. And so they can make reference to that at school and then try to strengthen that bond and, make reference to, I really enjoyed when we were doing mindfulness at school, but you want to make that connection if the school is not already having it. And you start it, but if you start it and you find that someone in your school is implementing a mindfulness program, then you want to partner with them because, like Jacquelyn said, it was so easy for the school psychologist was probably elated to be able to come over to the school and share with the parents because that helped the connection between home and school as well. And so we really have seen great benefits from that. So really quickly, I just wanted to share a few mindful handy tools that you want to have in your toolkit if you are starting to implement a mindfulness practice within your program. On the left here, you see this little ball, and it is an expandable ball, and we call it a breathing ball. And so kids can hold this ball, and as they take an inhale, they can expand the ball, which kind of shows what's happening in their body as their chest cavity and their bellies are opening up. And then we can push it in and contract it when we are exhaling. So they kind of get a visual of what's going on. And so especially for your kids who have a hard time with breaths or staying focused, this is another tool that allows them to stay focused on that breath. Next to that, to the right of that, you see the chime. And this is the same exact chime that I have. I purchased it on Amazon for about $12. And so when you ring this chime, it has an elongated sound, and so it goes on for about 60 seconds. And so that is another way, like I said, if you want to start your program or if you just want to give them a 60-second, breathing exercise. So you can hit this chime and just have children take some deep breaths until they no longer hear the sound. Next to that, you see glitter bottles, and you see the one on the right that has the glitter and all of the different objects kind of floating around. You can show kids how when you have a mindful, that this is how your brain is. It's all these things going on in your mind. But as you practice mindfulness, the bottle on the right shows how your thoughts and your feelings begin to settle. And then you can see through the bottle, and which kind of represents you seeing clearly. Right. And so you can have kids make glitter bottles and use those as references, but just make sure you glue the top on because little kids and water bottles with glitter in it will be all over the place. So you want to have mindful music, and this again is something that's free. You can go on YouTube. They have 1, 2, 3 hours worth of uninterrupted mindful music that you can use during your mindful meditation, but as well as like during homework time, if kids just need to continue to calm down a little bit more. Down on the bottom right is a digital timer, and I know most people don't use these anymore. They just use their timer on their clocks, on their phones. But you want to have a timer available because, especially with young kids, when you start off, you're just doing 1, maybe 2, maybe 3 minutes max until it becomes a habit and kids are able to withstand and sit still for longer periods of time. To the left of that is a mandala, and that's what you see in like adult coloring books. And the attention that it takes to color within these lines. And so, even if kids start off talking or looking around, very quickly this coloring project captures their attention, and they're able to just relax their mind for a minute and stop thinking about the past or the future, but just focusing in on the present. To the left of that is a bracelet that you can make with pipe cleaners. You can put beads on those pipe cleaners, and you can have students move the beads on their bracelet and say, "Peace begins with me." And so each bead you would move with each word, and then you could have them slow it down And that's just really a practical exercise that you can do. I put YouTube, GoNoodle, and Headspace here because those are all electronic resources that you can use. GoNoodle is a wealth of resources. They have their own mindfulness section and it's free. And I know a lot of elementary teachers use that website. And YouTube, if you just search mindfulness in kids, you will be overwhelmed with the amount of information that is there. And Headspace is an app that is really user-friendly with kids and adults. So as we wind up, our title of this presentation was Mindful or Mindful, Reclaiming My Time. And I'm not sure if anyone has ever seen this meme or know about what happened with this, but this is Representative Maxine Waters. And she sparked social media hashtags and viral memes when she interrupted the Treasury Secretary when she had asked him a question. And she realized she had a limited amount of time to ask her question and get the answer. And he was taking some of that time to, give her some accolades and say these things about her. And she began to repeat, reclaiming my time, reclaiming my time, reclaiming my time, because she wanted him to know that her time was valuable, the time was hers, it was valuable, and that she wanted to make the most of that time because she knew she couldn't get that time back. And so, I've heard a quote that said, life is the C between B and D. B is for birth, D is for death, and C is the choice in between, the choices that you make in between. So when I choose to be mindful over having a mind full, I improve my attention, I regain my focus, and I can fully experience the joy of being in the present moment, that time that I can never get back, and I take control over my life. So just imagine how, the Michaels in your program, once they are able to recognize that they do have a choice, that they can take responsibility for improving their own attention, for regaining their own focus. They can begin to show up better in life, have better relationships. They will enjoy the present moment and they take control back. Reclaiming my time doesn't mean getting old time back. It means claiming it again and taking control of it and being able to, just enjoy life. So that is our presentation. We know we are right at 12:15. I apologize again, there was a lot of information. We want to share with you, we have resources, a slew of resources here on different activities that you can do. There's even a parent toolkit if once you start your program and you want to share with parents. You can subscribe to that YouTube channel. I put her information here. We have another page with those websites. And then if you need information to share with your leadership, there's also information in here about mindfulness and social emotional learning. And we'll end there. So a mind is like a parachute. If it doesn't work, if it isn't open. So we hope that you will have an open mind and that something that we shared today will be useful to you in implementing your program.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much. I love that presentation. I think there were so many, I was writing things down to myself, some of these little quotes, the last one with the B and the C, B, C, D, the C being the choice. I had to write that down right away and scribble that to myself. And when you're talking about the parents popping the chocolate candy in their mouth, I was immediately going, that would probably be me in that meeting.
Absolutely.
There was a ton of resources that you all mentioned, so I want to let everybody know that we will send follow-up materials with all those links and some of the other programs that you all mentioned, so be on the lookout for that. I did drop a link to our next presentation, which is going to be after we take our lunch break. So we're going to be returning at 1 o'clock so everybody can take a little break, grab something to eat. And yeah, I just want to say thank you all again so much. I think everybody here benefited from that presentation and really appreciate you taking the time to share all of that with us.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for having us. And I am able to see the chat now. So I'm grateful for all your responses and to see that you all have really benefited from what we shared here today. So everybody take care.
Everybody take care. And I'm going to end the meeting. Thank you all.